Hi, and welcome to this interview series of the EU's Course project. My name is Benjamin Lehner. I'm the CEO of the Dutch Marine Energy Center, and I'm very happy to be here with Marco Alves from WavEC, who is the CEO of WavEC, a renewable energy association here in Portugal with a grand mission. Marco, how are you?
Very good, very good. It's a pleasure to stay here with you and to answer some questions.
Nice to have you. And I'm really curious, what brings you out of bed? What is the drive for you and this company?
Well, the driving vision of WavEC is the same today as it was 20 to 25 years ago when WavEC was created. In a sense, it consists of promoting a fundamental shift in the energy paradigm by integrating offshore renewables into the energy mix. This mission is rooted in the need to improve energy independence and security of supply by promoting the use of endogenous resources and thereby reducing our reliance on fossil fuel imports. But above all, I would like to say that the main objective is to accelerate the decarbonization of our economy in order to mitigate climate change impacts. And when we say our economy, we refer primarily to the European level rather than a purely national level. So in a nutshell, this remains the core driver of WavEC today, and I believe it will remain the same in the coming years.
And in the same thought, actually, so what is the impact you feel WavEC has made in the last couple of years on this target of this energy transition, energy security, etc.?
Well, I think the impact of WavEC was quite significant. As I said, 25 years ago, WavEC was basically alone. There was a pioneer in Portugal. There was a few other pioneers in Europe looking into offshore renewables as an important source of renewable energies. But what we did was two main things. The first one, promote the sector. The sector is not mainstream yet, but I think is almost there. And this was the result of the effort of WavEC.
Yeah.
And other institutions, let's put things clear, other institutions in Europe, but in Portugal, during many years, WavEC was almost alone, okay? So this was basically one of the things, promoting offshore renewables, trying to show all the stakeholders in the industry, universities, authorities, put everybody on the same page regarding the relevance of offshore renewables. This was critical back 20 years ago. And the second point that was also critical and WavEC did a quite significant job was on helping developers. On the technical side, developing some components or optimize some components. On the environmental side, try to assess the potential impacts and how to mitigate those impacts. On the economic side, try to understand what could be the LCOE of the technology and the measures we should take to reduce the LCOE of those technologies. So on the technology development, WavEC was also critical, working with many different developers. And I think the result of this was basically the evolution of the sector that we have today. And the sector means not only floating wind, that is basically the most advanced one because it evolved really fast in the last 5 to 10 years, but other sectors that are not so advanced, the TRL is a bit lower, but despite that, I still believe that they are really promising sectors, and of course I'm talking about wave energy that is engraved in our DNA, as you know. I'm talking about floating solar, I'm talking about tidal and other sources of offshore renewables.
So WavEC supports the environmental, technical, economic, political development of all these offshore renewables like wave, like tidal, offshore or floating solar, and especially also floating wind, which has now tenders.
This is exactly the case.
Very nice.
This is exactly the case.
On that side also, how did the EU's Course project, which we are talking here about as well now, how did that influence WavEC's mission in that?
Well, the US Course is critical. And I believe it is not critical for the evident reasons. And the evident reasons are basically combine different sources of energy production. Let's talk about floating solar and bottom fixed wind, or the case we are involved floating wind with wave energy. Of course, we can think on sharing resources. We can think in the permitting, in optimize the ocean space. We can think in those, let's say, first order factors. And for that, of course, the project is really important. But I think that there is another reason in which the project is even more important, and is the message for investors. And the message for investors, I've been talking with many developers, with many investors, and the idea they have in mind nowadays, or not only nowadays, a few years ago already, is basically that offshore renewables is floating wind, basically. And the idea of the investment is, why should I put money in a technology like wave energy, and its concept will have 0.5 to 1 megawatt power capacity, and not floating wind in which a unit has 12 or 15 megawatts. And all the investment has been, of course, on the side of floating wind. But what this project is showing is that there is complementarities between these sources of energy.
They can help each other.
That can help each other. And this is the most important outcome. So there is an articulation between wave energy and floating wind that can have impacts on reducing the LCOE of the two sources of energy, because we are sharing resources, because we are producing, and this aspect is really important, we are producing the power production is much more smooth, which is critical for the grid integration. And those type of aspects, I think, are probably the most important. The message for investors that combining these different sources might be beneficial for floating wind, for wave energy, for bottom fixed wind, for floating solar. And I think this is probably the most important outcome of this project.
Thanks a lot, Marco. So next to all the great work WavEC is doing together with the EU's Course project, we will get investments into the sector. We will help develop this new offshore renewables. And it was a great pleasure being here in your wonderful office in Lisbon. And I hope to see you to the next interview series.